Hello, Pewter people. Scott Reynolds here with another Pewter Pulse. Well, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator interview search process has begun with some interesting names that haven't really generated much excitement from the Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan base so far. So, what's the latest on the Bucs offensive coordinator search? Well, that's the subject of today's Pewter Pulse video, and I'll dive into that topic in just a moment. First reminder, hit the thumbs up button on this video, give it a like. Also, leave a comment. I love reading your comments. Doing those two things helps us with the YouTube algorithm and gets our videos out there in front of more awesome Bucs fans like you. Also, head over to Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, for more great Bucs video content and help us get to 23,000 subscribers by hitting the subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. Thank you very much. Former Titans offensive play caller and head coach Brian Callahan was the first to interview for the Bucs' vacant offensive coordinator position. Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson is on deck to be the next one. But who's next after them? Let's talk about it, shall we? The first thing to be aware of is that the Bucs are starting off their offensive coordinator search with experienced play callers. Todd Bowles and Jason Light have hired 3 straight offensive coordinators with little to no play calling experience and have had mixed results. The first was Dave Canales in 2023 when the Bucs had a very hard time landing an offensive coordinator to replace Byron Leftwich because Bowles was coming off an 8-9 season and a bad playoff loss. And Tampa Bay's Tom Brady had just retired. That was not an appealing job at the time because the sense around the league was that Bowles was a dead man walking in 2023. Former Georgia offensive coordinator Todd Monkin turned the job down in 2023 in favor of working with John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. It's hard to blame him. Bengals quarterbacks coach Dan Pitcher also turned down the job in favor of continuing to work with Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. Pitcher got promoted to offensive coordinator shortly thereafter, but still doesn't call the plays. So Canales was the only one who said yes. And he produced better results than Leftwich did and parlayed that success, which included turning Baker Mayfield's career around, into the Carolina head coaching job. Next up was Liam Cohen, who did have 2 years' worth of play calling experience in the SEC at Kentucky and a few games with the Rams at the end of the 2022 season. He was a huge upgrade over Canales and helped the Bucs produce a top 5 rushing attack and a top 5 scoring offense. After landing the Jaguars head coaching job after the 2024 season, Josh Grizzard was promoted from pass game coordinator to offensive coordinator despite not having any play calling experience. Continuity was the big reason why Grizzard got the position, but as expected, he wound up being better than Canales, but not as good as Cohen due to that lack of play calling experience. Grizzard just got fired because, well, the head coach Todd Bowles needed a scapegoat to save his job after an 8-9 record and missing the playoffs. But the offense also underwhelmed down the stretch, and that's fair to point out, averaging just 17 points per game over the last 3 games, in which the Bucs finished 1-2. So with Bowles starting the year on the hot seat and facing a make-or-break 2026 season, he's going to want to go with an experienced play caller at the controls of the offense. It's too risky for him to go with another unproven play caller with his job on the line. That's why the first 2 interviews are with experienced play callers, guys like Brian Callahan, the former Titans head coach, and Zach Robinson, who will likely move on from Atlanta after they fired Raheem Morris. Even though the Falcons' offense underwhelmed in some areas, like third down, it was pretty good in the red zone. And over the past 2 seasons, Atlanta was 3-1 versus Todd Bowles in the Bucs in these last 2 years, and that likely made an impression. Plus, with Robinson, he has 5 years of experience in the Rams offense after working with Sean McVay, primarily as LA's quarterbacks coach, where he worked with Baker Mayfield for 5 weeks at the end of the 2022 season. And perhaps Robinson could be the closest thing to Cohen that the Bucs could land if the desire is to stick with continuity on offense, just with a more experienced play caller than Grizzard. The Bucs do have some interest in former Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monkin and former Miami head coach Mike McDaniel. Both of those men are interviewing for head coaching jobs. Monkin in Cleveland, where he was the offensive coordinator, but not the play caller in 2019 with Baker Mayfield. And McDaniel, believed to be interviewing with Tennessee. So after they conclude any and all interviews for head coaching opportunities, expect them to then interview with the Bucs and other teams for the offensive coordinator job. McDaniel would bring a strong Kyle Shanahan 49ers influence to Tampa Bay, while Monkin has previous ties to the Bucs. The Glazers and Jason Light have familiarity with Monkin, who worked under Dirk Cutter from 2016 to 2018, primarily as the receivers coach, and then as the play caller in 2018 during the Bucs' Fitzmagic start with quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick. Light is tight with both John Harbaugh and Kirby Smart, and we get the scoop on Monkin from his time as a play caller in both Baltimore from 2023 to 2025, and then before that, winning back-to-back national championships at Georgia during his time there from 2020 to 2022. Monkin is a no-nonsense coach that demands excellence and would have the support of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin Jr. for sure, as he coached both of those Bucs star receivers in 2017 and 2018. Landing Monkin might ensure that the team could convince Evans to come back for a 13th season in Tampa Bay. Here are a couple things to note during the Bucs offensive coordinator search. First, the Bucs have never hired their first interview, the first candidate, in any of the years they've needed an offensive coordinator. So if you're not a fan of Brian Callahan, don't worry about it too much. Second, the Bucs have already interviewed several young up-and-coming offensive assistants like Rams pass game coordinator Nate Scheelhaas and Jaguars offensive coordinator in title only, Grant Udinski. Now, there's a chance that they could interview those guys again for the job, as they were both interviewed this past year. But Bowles and Light seem focused, at least right now, on finding an experienced play caller. I think guys like Scheelhaas, who does have 1 year worth of play calling experience with Rocco Beck, the quarterback at Iowa State, back in the 2023 season, I think those guys could be in the mix of like a second wave of interviews if the first wave of experienced NFL play callers doesn't land the right guy. But if this turns out to be 2023 again, where Bowles was coming off an 8-9 season and on the hot seat, Tampa Bay may have trouble finding candidates who take the job again. We'll have to see. Keep in mind, though, this offensive coordinator position is a lot more attractive this year, this time around, than it was in 2023. Why? Well, Baker Mayfield's the quarterback. You've got guys like Chris Godwin Jr., Bucky Irving, Emeka Egbuka, Tez Johnson, and possibly Mike Evans leading the offense in terms of weaponry. And you've got one of the top offensive lines in the NFL, led by Tristan Wirfs. So let's see what happens. Happy hunting, Todd and Jason. Folks, hope you enjoyed this Pewter Pulse video. And if you'd like to see more Bucs video content, head over to Pewter Report TV. It's our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. As I said before, we're on the way to 23,000 subscribers. So please join the masses. Make sure you're following us all off season long for the coaching changes, the staff hires, the free agency news, the draft coverage. Will be live at the Senior Bowl at the end of this month. Make sure you follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report, and read all of our content over on pewterreport.com on all those Bucs topics. And I'll be back soon with the new Pewter Pulse.